there were two things that I wanted to do when I first thought about Iyanu. I wanted to create a teenage African girl and put her in the spotlight in the lead role in a fantasy story because that's something that personally, at least back then, I'd never seen before. And the second thing I wanted to do is I really wanted to showcase um, what I consider is one of the greatest feats in just humanity's history, which is the Walls of Benin, which is where the walls of Elu are inspired by. And I'll start by saying this because I know you have a lot of quotes for us today. They are, and I'm reading this from The Guardian, 4 times longer than the Great Walls of China. Welcome to the YouNeek Show, where we talk about all things YouNeek Studios, African geekdom, and the business of creators. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the YouNeek Show. My name is Roye Okupe. I am the lead writer and CEO at YouNeek Studios. Excited to be here today. Co-host, introduce yourself.
My name is Jay Abaje. I am a super fan of all things YouNeek Studios. Also, the head honcho at the Niger Nerds. Happy to be here, guys.
Cool. Today we are talking we're talking about African history meets fantasy. And I'm really excited. I think I say I'm excited about every show. So I guess that's normal. I'm always excited.
Well, you're a fan of your work.
Yeah, I'm my biggest fan.
What you do. So yeah.
I am my biggest fan. And I'm not ashamed of that. But yeah. Jay, what are we digging into today?
So we are going to be looking into the inspiration for Iyanu. As all of you have heard the last few weeks, Iyanu has been the great news that the comic book Iyanu has been snapped up by HBO Max for an animated project, and we're going to be breaking down some of the inspiration that went into creating that story, specifically the Walls of Elu and the real life, real world inspiration that came from the Walls of Benin.
Yeah, I'm just going to start out by saying that the again, so Iyanu it's a story about a teen orphan girl who realizes that she has the powers of the divine ones, which are the gods of our land, and it's only these powers that can really save her people from the corrupt, which are berserk animals that have been turned to just basically kill all human beings, which is why they're behind the walls of Elu. So just giving a little bit of backstory about Iyanu. If you haven't, please get the books right now on YouNeekStudios.com/Iyanu. You can get volume 1. You can pre-order volume 2, which comes out in September. So you can learn more about everything we're going to be talking about today. But for me, there were two things that I wanted to do when I first thought about Iyanu. I wanted to create a teenage African girl and put her in the spotlight in the lead role in a fantasy story because that's something that personally, at least back then, I'd never seen before. And the second thing I wanted to do is I really wanted to showcase what I consider is one of the greatest feats in just humanity's history, which is the Walls of Benin, which is where the walls of Elu are inspired by. And I'll start by saying this because I know you have a lot of quotes for us today. They are, and I'm reading this from The Guardian, 4 times longer than the Great Walls of China is what the Walls of Benin were. So I'm just going to put that out there and allow you guys to digest while Jay gives you even more.
Listen, if people are wondering, the Great Wall of China still stands today. Why is the Walls of Benin gone? Well, there's a very simple reason for that. The British, y'all, in 1897, the British destroyed one of Africa's ancient architectural marvels, the Walls of Benin. And I'm going to read something here. This is a statement that in 1691, the Portuguese ship captain, 1691, he observed this. His name is Lorenzo Pinto. He observed Great Benin, Britain, where the king resides, is larger than Lisbon. All the streets run straight and as far as the eyes can see. The houses are large, especially that of the king, which is richly decorated and has fine columns. The city is wealthy and industrious. It is so well governed that theft is unknown, and the people live in such security that they have no doors to their houses. This is an amazing recollection.
Do you want to drop your mic? Like literally, mic drop.
I'm so glad my mother is from Edo State right now. But no, seriously, when you think about it, this is there's a lot that needs to be told about the story of
A
Benin.
lot.
So it's really
A
great
lot.
that Iyanu picks on that as something to inspire its greatness and the stories that are being told from it.
No, you're right. And again, that's one of the reasons why I create these stories, is to be able to mirror the reality of African history with the fantasy of the stories that I'm telling. You see the same thing too with Malika and Queen Amina. We've discussed that before, and then EXO and present day Lagos and some of the achievements, and just how that metropolis itself is so bustling and it's such a beautiful city. So for me, even when you read my books, you would see at certain chapter breaks, I go into detail about this is what inspired this is what inspired that. And Iyanu is no different. I think one of the chapter breaks, you would actually see this is why, or this is where we got the inspiration for the Walls of Elu, which is the Walls of Benin. And to me, it's a thing of such pride to be able to, as you were reading that, I was just taking back. This is like you said, 1691. This is almost 500 years ago, if my math is correct. And to have such majesty, such architectural majesty, and like even just the way people, we governed ourselves, and the amazing things that Europeans were saying about us, it just goes to show that we need to reclaim our history. And if it's through entertainment, it's through education, it's through schools, like we need to do more to shine a light on these stories. And that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I started YouNeek Studios.
And you look at the story in Iyanu, the city, they live in a place where there are a series of concentric walls. There's
Yes.
walls, there's
Yeah.
inner areas,
Yeah.
and further all the way
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
while that's not unique to Iyanu, there's other IPs out there that have similar stories and
Yeah.
everything. But one of the things I learned about the Walls of Benin that I think are really great and worth knowing is, first of all, the length. It's like 16,000 kilometers in length.
That's
And
just
I read something
mind-boggling.
that was amazing. Benin City's planning was done according to careful rules of symmetry and proportionality and
Yep.
repetition, which is now known as fractal design.
Yeah.
And in fact, somebody discussed the plan layout of the city, saying that when Europeans first came to Africa, they considered that it was disorganized and therefore primitive. But it never occurred to them that the Africans might have been using a form of mathematics that they hadn't even discovered yet.
Exactly.
That's coming from an ethnomathematician named Ron Eglash, who was talking about this. So that just goes to show that stories like Iyanu are so important because it
Yeah.
allows people to think, did places like this exist in previous
Exactly.
times? And then that's a gateway to going to learn more about the history of the Black diaspora and things
Yeah.
that have been lost to time through war and all kinds of terrible things.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head 100%, because that's again like one of the reasons why for me it's so important to tell these stories, not just from an entertainment perspective, but inspirational and educational as well. And like for me, like I said, when I started to research the Walls of Benin, it didn't end at the walls. It also the culture, like you said,
Exactly.
the way their streets were, and the way the community was, and how communal they were. So these are tiny nuggets that, even though Iyanu is a fantastical story, and you're seeing things like a magic leopard and a girl that can, shoot magic arrows or whatever, it's really grounded in what I would proudly say is the reality of what these African kingdoms were as well. At some point in the future, I will also talk about another inspiration, which was the Oyo Empire, which on its own too, there's a lot of just magnificence in terms of like even their political structure, and how kings were selected, and how the council what was there to advise the king, and the different things that they did. Like all these things are so fascinating that I hope that one of the things that people do when they read Iyanu, or even when they eventually hopefully get to see it on HBO Max, is that we go back to the roots, and see more of these things, and talk more about them amongst ourselves and amongst people, because we, as people of African descent, need to be very proud of some of the achievements we've made in the past, and really look inwards. Like if we don't know where we're coming from, how do we know where we're going?
Good question. On that note, I'm just going to say that I urge everybody to not just get the Iyanu books, read them, not just keep your ear to the ground, subscribe to YouNeek Studios online, and make sure you're tracking all the news coming regarding the HBO Max show. But go look up the city of Benin. And
Hmm.
anybody who knows anything about Benin, you know that even the magical elements of Iyanu may themselves be tied into some of that history, because Benin people and magic are not exactly far apart.
Yep, yep. But yeah, it's really for me a proud moment to be able to integrate African culture with these stories in a way that inspires and also pushes people to get further education. So like Jay said, please go out there and actually research and for yourself see some of the things that are marvelous, even if you're not of African descent. It's like I always enjoyed looking at like researching like ancient Rome, Vikings and things like that. So I think it'll be fascinating for people that are not even of African descent to be able to go out there and do their research and even be more educated about African history. I think that benefits us all. So, again, once again, this has been a fantastic segment and show, and we're going to be bringing you more of stuff like this in the future. So please subscribe to this YouTube channel, subscribe to our newsletter to be able to be kept updated about everything else. And as always, see you when I see you guys, and take it easy.
Peace out.